Hello, everyone. Carissa, are we waiting just to give everybody another minute?
I mean, maybe like 30 seconds.
Sounds good. All right. I'm going to go ahead and go. Okay, I am super excited to talk about Chapter 7. It was about connection and serving people. Let's see if I can get some light down here. Here we go. And I felt a huge connection to this chapter. I loved this chapter. I think every chapter speaks to me in a different way, and I hope you guys are seeing that too, that certain ones are just you're gravitating towards and you're learning from, because I know I am, you know, in every one that we've been doing, and I have been taking notes like crazy, especially on this one. So I'm going to talk about the discussion questions. Let me pull those up. Did everybody get those? Making sure. Okay. So we're going to talk about serving others. So I'm going to start by, when was a time that stood out to you that you connected with people well and was given servanthood, and how did it make you feel? Don't forget, I'll call you out if nobody speaks up. Anybody? Dun, dun, dun. Oh no, Bonnie, I'm sorry. Okay, well, I'm going to call on, I don't see faces, but because y'all are maybe embarrassed to not talk, but I'm going to still call you out. Let's see. Ashley.
Sorry, I was having issues, so I literally just signed on. What was the question? I'm ready to answer.
Okay, you're okay. You're okay. When was a time that stood out to you that you connected with people well and was given servanthood, as in like, and how did it make you feel?
Ooh, like, to me, I mean, a mission trip is like an easy opportunity for that, where people, I mean, just helping people when they're in such a vulnerable state. I went to Honduras, and like, I mean, that's just so fulfilling to be able to help people who truly need it. And you can just see God using you. Like, to me, servanthood, like, one of the most rewarding things of it is to see how God can use you to impact the lives of others.
So go ahead.
When was I given servanthood? I heard it the other way. Sorry. When I had the twins. Like, you got 2 babies at home, and you just, like, your head is spinning because you're 3 especially, and you think you have your life together, and all of a sudden you have 2 babies. And, like, people giving, like, coming over and just bringing food, or just even sitting with me and just, like, being with me in my messy, dirty hair, and just sitting with me and being an adult. Like, to me, that, you know, bringing food and just sitting and being with me was huge during that time.
Yeah. So when you had food brought to you, even in your mess, when you felt like other people probably would judge you or see your dirty house and everything, how did it make you feel when you were being served?
It was very humbling and very, like, super grateful as well. Like, just like you could almost feel like God in the room, and just like, okay, these people are here for me. They're here to help me, supported.
Yeah. I think my internet's cutting in and out. It's been bad the last few days, so forgive me if mine's been, has it been okay? Is it messing up? Because it's kind of weird on my side. It's still good. Okay, good. I'm going to run with it. Okay. Anybody else that you were given amazing servanthood, and then I want to know how you felt in that moment.
Talking about having babies, I feel like there's never been a time in my life that I felt service from others like when I'm laying in that bed and those postpartum nurses come in and begin to care for you and do all the things that they do. Nothing can prepare you for that moment because your body is just happening. There's, you have no control. And the way that they care for you, not making you feel ashamed that you don't have control over your body, and making you feel empowered simply by, offering their service and praising you for what you've done, even though women have been doing it for thousands of years. But that was one time I just felt so overwhelmed with gratitude for service to me.
I think a lot of us,
something I could never repay them for either.
Oh yeah, no. I think that's something we can all can connect to with at least having children, because we've got people at church that came to bring us food, and it's probably all the same lasagna and the same pizza, but at least it's food. I hear somebody and I can't mute. Same thing with me. That was a wonderful moment that I had. But anybody else that have something different other than childbirth or hospitals or anything like that? Is there anything else that stands out? No? Okay. Well, I'm going to go to the next one. Okay. When was the time you put someone else first over your own feelings, even if you didn't even like them? And then what happened because of it?
I'll jump in. I would say, so this was something that I just naturally, I feel like tended to do, like put others before myself, not in like the most noble and healthy way by any means. And so I can think of examples on both sides of it where, yes, it was like in a noble way where it was very humbling to put somebody else's needs in front of yours or mine or whatever you want to say. And it is like, I think of a lot of my students and stuff like that, where sometimes like I give up my lunches where like I so desperately need some of that time by myself too. It's one of like the very few times in the day where I'm maybe not with someone and I need that for like my own time to like mentally regroup. But then you have moments where that these kiddos are struggling way more than I ever would be, or they don't have the resources or ways to like cope through that. So like I can think to that side of it, but then I can also think, and then it's a pretty amazing like opportunity to like care for others. But then on the flip side, in past years, and I'm so much better about it now because I just feel like through like personal growth, like I've realized that it's not always the healthiest to put everybody else in front of yourself, because then you've got nothing left to give. And I've very much so had to like intentionally allow time for myself and allow myself to be okay with that. Because I used to think that the more I gave, like the better I was as a person. And that's what I was being called to do. And that wasn't necessarily it, because I wasn't healthily giving.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that that's something that a lot of us that love to serve have an issue with. It's finding those boundaries and figuring out, I still want to serve, and you still can in a loving way, but finding those boundaries that you're not overgiving yourself to. I'm going to see if anybody else has anything on that, because I know that there's several times that I've done something for somebody that I know I did not like, and I know how I felt doing it, but I still served them. So what about you guys?
I'll jump in. I have a friend who we were like super close best friends, and then, life happens and there was a bit of a falling out that, of course, each side you feel like is right.
Yeah.
And so, but she is actually, basically she had a long fertility journey and ended up getting pregnant, and it was kind of, it was important for me to be really supportive and like help throw baby shower and do all of that, even though it would not have been like my ideal choice. But I do think that it's helping to mend the relationship, and so that is a really good thing.
That is. Sometimes when we go out of our comfort zones, beautiful things happen. And then sometimes it gives us that moment where like, okay, I did my all, and that relationship is gone. You've got to find that like, okay, I've done it all and I can't do any more, and be able to say no. I think that there's a fine boundary between servanthood and connecting with people that we all need to find. I have a similar story. Go ahead.
I think by doing that, and our relationship is improving, but I think it helped me to accept that like I've done what I can, and our relationship will not be what it was, and that's okay.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. I have a high school best friend that had a divorce, and she's completely opposite. It's so hard to talk to her because she's just so judgmental. But I still feel like I need to serve her as a friend when she needs me, even though I don't feel comfortable, because we're not the same. You know what I mean? It's completely different now. But because we've been friends for so long, she doesn't have anybody else. So I feel that need to be able to support her in the valleys that she has. Does that make sense? Like, there's a difference. Like, if it keeps getting to where it's unhealthy, then I'm going to find the boundary to, quit that. But I still want her to know that I'm there for her. Okay, so next one. When was a time that stood out to you that you did not connect well with someone? What happened, and how did you feel? What would you have done differently because of it?
Are you wondering like specifically in our Plexus business?
It really can be anything.
Okay.
I mean, it doesn't have to be completely Plexus, especially if nobody feels comfortable talking about it either.
So I was going to say, back when I was full-time in the salon managing that, there was a lot of times that my mom would bring someone into the salon, even though I was in charge of hiring, that didn't mesh well with the team. And I guess that's what first came to my head is that situation, because of course, being a manager, I had to, I guess I had to get along with everybody. I'm supposed to, but some of the people that she brought in that didn't mesh, it was really hard. And then trying to like intermingle with people, I guess. I don't know. The only thing I would have done differently is maybe a trial period. I mean, obviously those people that I've had mal feelings for didn't last, but I don't know. That's just where my mind went when I read that question.
I'll add in, like, when I hear that, I think as it pertains to Plexus, that it can be really hard to connect with people because you're seeing just the snippet of their life. Like, if you have never met Cassie Howard or Carissa Casey, or like, all you're seeing is this Facebook version of them, especially on like our team pages and stuff like that. I think it's super important to take time to get on a phone with somebody, or like Zooms like this. And like, it just made me realize that, like, how many people in my downline am I not connecting with? How many people see me a different way? Like, I mean, very superficially, you see people and you're like, oh, you're way taller than I thought you were in real life, or you're way shorter than I thought you were based on the Facebook profile picture.
Mhm.
And so when I saw that, it made me realize how there's probably several people on my team that I have not connected with and have an idea of who I am just off of the way that I lead, which is a very direct approach. As a 3, I can be very direct. And so trying to just find more opportunities to connect with people as a leader, especially as it gets further down.
Yeah, for sure. I think that is something that I have strived to try to do from now on. Is anybody new that I have, I really try to send a voice message, or even now that they have the video option, so that they can see me and get to know me a little bit more than what, like you said, what they know on Facebook, or maybe what their upline had said about me, or hasn't. Who knows? But the thing is to connect to those people, because if that upline falls apart and something happens, they know you and they already have that connection to you, so that when they reach out to you, they feel comfortable and they feel at ease. So this is why I'm really big on our team now of doing 3-ways, because this is huge to be able to really connect with that person and find out more about them. I usually ask questions like, tell me a little bit more about yourself. How did you know Tiffany, or how did you meet Jessica? What brought you to Plexus? What made you want to start this? Things like that, so that you're digging deeper, not just like, hi, I'm Cassie, nice to meet you, and it's done. You're not getting that connection and that bond then. We've been doing 3-way Marco Polos now, because again, face-to-face Zooms are huge. And so we're trying to encourage that as well. One, it gets them, so when they do want to plug into the business, they've already got that app done, and we do a lot of business stuff that way now. And Zooms. I've been trying to do a lot more Zooms, so we get to meet them face to face, versus a quick 15-second video that I send. But I have lots of homework for y'all later that I think you're gonna enjoy, because I feel like getting to know your team is really going to help your business like you cannot even imagine. I know in the past it was something that I didn't do well, because I felt like, okay, I just need to know my level 1s, maybe my level 2s, but it stops. And for me, no, it doesn't stop there. I need to get to know my level 7, because what happens if the level 6 and 5 fall off and then they're by themselves? They have nobody to go to. And so no matter what level they're on, I try to send a hello. So there's that. So here's the thing. Think about your Plexus business in this. What are your gifts that you have used to better serve your team? Or examples that on how you can better use those gifts to serve and connect with your team. So think of your gift.
I have one for this one. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay. So I was thinking about this, and I think that the biggest gift that I have been utilizing with my team is I feel like I have a voice, and communication comes very easily for me. So whether that is wording for messages or posting ideas, and I thought that was normal, and that everybody felt like that was kind of an easy thing. But as I have started leading people that wanted to work the business, that was actually the number one fear, that they didn't know what to say. And so a lot of how I have been serving my team has just been taking that fear away by giving them ideas, or we have a daily post group where I will put up a post idea for everybody, or they'll come and say this is the message I want to get across, but I think the way that I'm doing it sounds too salesy, so we'll kind of go through different ideas. And I think that's taken a lot of fear out for them. And I mean, it's something that I feel like is a strength for me, so it's not hard for me to help them.
I love that idea. Oh my goodness. I mean, to be able to do that for your team, because their first posts are the hardest sometimes. They just feel like this wall is up and they're like, what do I do? That's a wonderful idea to be able to use your gift like that, because there's a lot of us, we're not all perfect. And this is how we all can continue to keep growing as leaders and learning, but we have gifts that make us us, and that God has gifted us. And so utilizing that in that way is huge. I love that. What else? Anybody else? Gifts.
I'll share.
Mm-hmm.
One interesting thing about 3s on the Enneagram is that their deadly sin is deception. But the cool thing about the Enneagram is it's all about transformation. And so everybody's deepest struggle also can become their greatest virtue as they progress and transform. And so one of the things that one of the gifts I have, and that a lot of people have told me I have, is the ability to be honest and authentic. And I think that the way that serves my team is, I mean, even if I can word it nicely, I really have to speak the truth to them. So the gift of truth bombs. And really, you know, oftentimes how that plays out helping them is I so badly want to see my people act out what I know they're capable of, even though I know they don't think they're capable of it. So being able to communicate that to them and, you know, really like try to bring that out of them. I feel like that's hard for some people. Some people don't want to push others, but I see it as pushing people to their full potential.
Yeah. And I think if you have that connection, then nobody's going to think that you're saying it mean or that you're trying to be ugly about it. You're actually, like, you know, Kara said, you're speaking it beautifully to them. You're getting to them in a way that nobody else can, as long as you have connection. Now, if somebody came and told me that what I was doing wrong and there was nothing there, then yeah, I'd be offensive. And I'd be like, what in the world? But that, I think this is why it's huge to have connection with all of your members, so that when you do need to speak truth to them, like I'm really big on team members posting graphics, like ugly graphics. And when I see it, I want them to know that I love them when I reach out to them and be like, hey, I want you to be able to have the best posts. They reach out to people and I love on them and say, what about this? Let's do it differently this way. Things like that, that if you had that connection, they wouldn't take it different, you know, wrong. Oh goodness, my 30 minutes is going quick. Okay. Any other gifts really quick?
I feel like having authenticity with your people and honesty with your people gives them the freedom to give you feedback. Like I've had Caitlin and Jana at different times tell me ways that it would help them feel connected to me, which is, those are hard conversations, but I'm so thankful.
Yeah, it is. And that's going to be some of y'all's homework, is to love on your people, figure out what they need from you. But we'll go into that later. I'm excited about that one because I feel like it's something that we don't do enough. Okay, last one really quick. What would your plan of action look like from here on out to make a better connection with your team? Like, what do you feel you could do right now to make better connections with your team?
This is something that I struggle with as a red and a 3. Like, I have to, like, put it on a calendar, which, like, it's not, I'm not, like, inauthentic, but it's not on count, like, it doesn't happen. And something that I find that I have to ask my yellows all the time, like, who do I need to reach out to? Who needs to hear from me? Because sometimes I lose touch of that really easily. And so for me, like, a plan of action is to, like, put it in my calendar, like, talk to Michelle, ask who on Michelle's team I need to reach out to. Then when I talk to Michelle, I put those names on my calendar for those dates. And Michelle doesn't tell me what to say. I don't want this to be, like, really inauthentic, like, but I just need to know, okay, who is it? Like, sometimes I don't always perceive the who needs connection. And so for me, that's my plan of action, is reaching out to my people, looking through my level ones and saying, okay, like, I remember a lot about people, but sometimes I don't think enough to, like, reach out to them. So putting them in a calendar for me is huge.
Well, you're not seeing our chat because you're talking, but I don't think it's authentic. I'm with Carissa right now because there's some times that you just forget who's all on your team, and you want to make sure you're not missing anybody, because the last thing you want to do is upset somebody by not tagging them in anything or not reaching out to them because something happened. It's crazy, because that's the crazy life we live now, especially you're full time, you're working and you're doing this. You have to. I don't think that that's authentic at all. And yes, make sure you guys can mute yourself because I can't mute you. Okay, I'm going to share just a little bit about my notes, and then I'm going to pass it on to Carissa. Okay. One of my favorite things that I outlined, where's it at? I don't know. So he did a lot of questions, like evaluating yourself, finding things that you do well in servanthood and serving others and making connections. But I really liked this one. It says, focus on. He said, developing the heart of a servant leader inside and out. People can sense your attitude towards them. Raise them up. They can sense if you're doing something to raise yourself up or for them up. So remember that when you're trying to connect to somebody, focus back and realize, am I trying to do this for my own benefit or actually for theirs? It's better, and he talked about it a lot, putting others first is going to better your team, your everything later on. So remember that. We're going to talk about homework later. I mean, I have tons of notes, but I'm out of time. Do y'all have anything else on this chapter that stood out to you that you felt like I need to do this, or I'm pretty good at this, or anything?
I think one thing that, oh, wow. The baby just woke up crying. I can't even get thoughts out without that child waking up. I think just the reminder that that I'm doing this, like I'm helping you, and it in turn helps me, and that's nice. But like, I think that way, but making sure that my people know that, and that that also coming through in my posting. Because I've kind of heard a little bit of, not backlash for me or towards me here lately, but just like network marketing in general. A couple people who are interested, but their spouses are like, yeah, it's another pyramid scheme. And, you know, and like remind them and to actually say, like, I don't do this so that I can be a diamond and have a diamond salary and drive a Lexus. Like, I do this because I feel passionate about helping other people, and this company is just my tool. Like, and I think it was just really helpful to remind me of that, and then to make sure that my people know that I feel that way.
Yeah, I think that's huge. You can tell a leader when they care and they really want to help you get the best results and help you get where you want to be. And like you said, you said it beautifully, like, especially putting that to even potentials, like letting them know, like, I'm not in this. Yeah, all of the above would be great, but my story, my passion is to be able to help others. And that's not for everybody, but as long as they can perceive that, they can connect to you a little bit better. Another thing is when you're talking to somebody, you always try to find something you're connected with them anyway. You're like, oh, where are you from? Oh, well, my grandma lived there. And then you have that connection already right there that you made just by starting a conversation. So very huge. Now, Carissa, are we doing homework at the end, or do you want me to go ahead and share that now?
No, go ahead and share it.
Okay. All right. So you're going to have this, you don't have to write it down, but I'm kind of going to tell you what we're going to do. So we talked about evaluation, like evaluating what you're doing, how you're doing it. So 1, take some time and write down what you think your team needs from you to support them. Write down whatever you think, because you as a leader should know possibly what your team needs. Number 2, think of what it's like for the people that you work with on your team. Be open and honest with yourself. And and go with the expectations of what your team needs from you and what you expect of them. So think of that. Like, be open and honest when you're writing things down. Like, what would it be like to work with Cassie Howard? Like, what would it be like to work with me? Write that down. And then figure out what's your expectations from your team, and then what do I expect from them. 3, ask your team questions on what you are doing well and where you need to improve on. I know that that's hard, but it's going to help you so much grow in your business and make better connections with your team when you're there for them and you're exceeding more than what they ever thought that they could get from you. Because if you have team members that are like, you know what, I need more Zooms from you. Like, okay, well, I can do it this day, or I can do whatever. Like, figure out what they need from you and then work and figure out how you can make that possibly happen. Okay, 4, last one. Here's huge for me. Work with a sideline person, because sometimes you're in your own little bubble. You need it. Sidelines are amazing for a reason. They have great wealth, great knowledge, and they might be doing something that you aren't, that you could gain from. So work with a sideline to find ways that you can start connecting with your team better, and what works for them. So find, kind of like what we shared here. You know, Caitlin said, I do posts and I help my team that. Like, finding things that work from other sidelines are going to help your business too. So do that. That's your homework.
Yeah, very cool. I mentioned this a second ago, but it was pretty helpful and eye-opening to me to let my team give me that assessment, that feedback, for sure. And then to go to my sideline writing partners and my uplines and say, okay, this is the feedback I got. Wow, what do I do with this? And they were really able to help me with that too. Okay, real quick, so now we're going to move on to the next chapter, which is about vision. And I would love for people to unmute themselves and call out to me some quick phrases of what you feel like it means to have vision as the leader of a team. What does it mean to have vision? Or maybe call out, like, when was a moment when you went from having no vision for Plexus to having vision? So super quick answers. Or you can type them in the chat and I'll read them out loud.
A super clear moment for me in having vision was when I saw the potential of money that could be earned, and that I'd been praying for a way to pay for my kids to go to a private school. It was just like, yep, this is it. I see it. Let's go.
Were you silver at that time, or?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
It was that. I was silver on my way to gold.
And was that vision given to you by Lorelei or another leader, or?
That's a great question that I don't know that I can answer unless Lorelei remembers it. But I feel like I'm a very numbers person. I'm sure Lorelei did things to help me see it. But like, seeing the paycheck was like, okay, there actually is money to be made here. I could see how quickly. I'm sure I saw posts of other people, like what they were earning with their paychecks, and seeing what ranks they were, and that they were only at this rank and they were making this amount of money. And it was like, okay, I can see that that's very possible in my near future.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. I had a similar moment when I saw my first paycheck. The $327 that it would have taken me hours and hours and hours to earn on my blog. And I was like, there's a lot of potential here. And then what appealed to the more yellow side of me was your story, Jessica Saunders. Just like my very first customer who trusted me, having a powerful change in her health, I saw a much bigger picture. I'm going to read out what other people have written. Tiffany said, so vision is having a direct path or having goals. And Jessica said, vision is having clarity and being able to see the big picture. And Michelle said, vision is purpose. And I 1000% agree with all of those definitions. I think it's all of those things for sure. So John Maxwell in this chapter also said something pretty profound, which is that having vision is absolutely indispensable, and that every leader can increase their capacity for vision. So that was one of our discussion questions, is do you either have it or you don't? I definitely think it's a natural strength for some people. Like some personality numbers are very future thinkers, and some are very present thinkers, and some tend to dwell in the past. So yes, it can be a natural strength, but in this chapter, he talks about the fact that every leader has the ability to increase their capacity for vision and the responsibility, not just the ability, but the responsibility to be constantly increasing your capacity for vision on an ongoing basis. And he kind of defines it as being able to see more and before others. So I think that everybody in this call does have a level of vision that probably is beyond what just the normal ambassador on our team would have, but it can grow so much more. Okay. He talks about too that it's something that comes from deep within us. It comes from our most noble thoughts, but that requires work to bring it to the surface. Let's see. Okay. One cool thing he said was most people go through life saying, I have to see it to believe it. And a big thing that we probably have all learned within our team is you actually have to believe it first if you're ever going to see it happen in real life. So you have to believe I can be a silver ambassador. I can start 3 people on this, Plexus journey before you're ever going to be able to see that thing come to reality. And that's one of the number one things we as leaders encounter with our teams is that they're kind of going for a goal, but they don't believe they can reach it, which is the number one thing that's going to make it impossible for you to ever reach that goal or fulfill that purpose. So I think it's really profound to remember we have to be able to see it, believe it, before we will see it happen. I love Sheila Medina as an example of that. The very first person to ever go diamond in Plexus, the very first person to take this opportunity around the country. Little Louisiana, Sheila Medina and Coach Ronnie Cuevas going around doing meetings across the Southeast coast and sharing, our Slim and our breast check kit with people. And Sheila, I remember her saying at convention a while ago that she was the first person to go emerald and just had to believe there would be an emerald pool bonus to put into her paycheck when that time came because it hadn't been done before. So I love that example of that. Okay. So a big thing I want us to focus some time on is how do you cultivate your role as your team's visionary leader, especially if you feel like vision doesn't come naturally to you. I wake up in the morning and my brain is miles ahead going, okay, our team has got to be thinking about this. There is a night of testimonies a week from 2 days from now, and nobody's invited anybody to it yet. I'm always doing that. So maybe even to a fault. But if you don't feel like vision just naturally wakes you up in the morning, how do you cultivate your role as a visionary leader? How can you increase your capacity for vision? Okay, so again, throw some phrases out or type them in the chapter or type them in the chat. And I'll definitely share with you some of the ideas I gleaned from the chapter too. But just real quick, kind of rapid fire. What are some ways to increase your capacity for vision?
I think watching leaders who are good at it. I feel like in some areas I'm good at it, but when it came to Plexus, it was a whole new ball game, and I needed to learn what having vision for my Plexus team looked like. And so watching people who have it has been really helpful.
Yeah, that's good. I'm reading.
I think as a leader, involving people in the stuff that you do that creates vision. Lorelai and I started doing leadership calls where we would say, okay, what are we going to plan? How are we going to plan out the next month? And involving some of our people that are higher up in those calls so they could see what it was like to plan a month ahead of time, and that it's not something that just happens. We don't just wake up and do all of the decisions that morning. And so that was huge, just involving other people in those visionary things that, it does come naturally to both Lorelai and I, but there are parts of it that we still have to work hard at and talk through, and we just talk out loud and think out loud, I should say. And so involving people in that was a huge part of it.
Thank you for sharing that. I remember that light bulb moment. And we say this all the time about our personal production, like our IPAs, that first of all, you have to be doing them. And second of all, you have to be making it visible. Your team has to not only be doing it, but your team has to see you doing it. And we talk about that with IPAs. And you're right, Ashley, the same is true for vision and leadership. It has to be, you have to be envisioning things for your team, and then you have to be making that process visible, like you guys did, where you created a leadership team and started Zooming with them on a regular basis to show them this is the kind of prep work we're doing on an ongoing basis to lead this team. Yeah, the hashtag what I did today that we're always encouraging. So I wrote down a quote. Speaking of that, Ashley, I wrote down this quote from page 176. Y'all know I love like strong language, so this one really jumped out at me. Vision must be articulated clearly and forcefully on every occasion. So many strong words. Vision must be articulated clearly and forcefully on every occasion. Your vision must be present and it must be visible. And another thing I remember from a different John Maxwell book, which I would love to recommend this as a follow-up study to anyone who hasn't read the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, is he says vision has to be communicated clearly, creatively, and continually. Those 3 C's. So clearly he said here, but creatively meaning like, all my different personality numbers on my team are going to receive it differently and hear it differently. So the same vision I have may need to be repeated 9 different ways for the 9 different personalities on my team, and continually, like saying it once may reach 1/10 of our team at a certain time, in a certain medium like Facebook, maybe, may reach some of the team. But so I agree with that. Okay. And y'all actually wrote down a ton of these that I wrote down too. So you guys wrote, let's see, in the chat thread. So Caitlin, you said watching leaders who are good at it. And then Tiffany said surrounding yourself with visionary people, like making that a part of your inner circle. Ashley said like making your vision visible to people. And then Jessica, you basically said personal growth, right? Be intentional about feeding yourself. Yes. Okay, so the strategies I wrote down from the chapter were companionship. So Tiffany hit the nail on the head there. Personal growth. Jessica got that one. And then the 2 that no one said, one of them was ownership. Let me look specifically. I wrote down page 175. So let me see if I highlighted there. Okay, ownership of it. How do I get vision for my organization? When he hears this question, he says, I feel for the leader who asks it because I know it means this person has been placed in leadership position but maybe lacks this quality of having vision. I hope you already possess vision of your own, but if you don't, I can't give it to you, but I can share the process of seeking it for yourself and those around you. And that's what I wrote down when I said ownership, is this idea that like, my upline can't spoon feed it to me. I have to take responsibility for my role as the visionary leader of my team. So the other thing I wrote down is praying for vision. I think everybody in here is a person of faith. And so that is profoundly powerful. Praying, if you go, I have no idea what I'm doing in this. I mean, honestly, if you feel like you don't have any vision, how did these words feel to you to say, I have no idea what I'm doing in this Plexus thing? Like, what the heck why am I even here? Like, this is how you uncover your vision. It's actually not, I don't think any of us are here being like, what the heck am I doing here? Why am I introducing people to this stuff? Like, what are we even, I don't think anyone feels like that. So if you do feel lost at vision, maybe you need to just kind of ask yourself simpler questions. Cassie, disorganized is how I feel, and lost. Okay, so you have a vision, you have a purpose, but maybe some of the frustration is like, how do I execute it when I feel like I'm pulled in so many directions? And he actually calls this on page 169, having your hours absorbed by petty tyrannies. So a tyranny, a tyrant, someone who's ruling over your life like a dictator, robbing you of your free will. That's what I think about when I think about like what Ashley talked to us about, which is like not having your priorities on your schedule in accordance with your purpose and your values. If we don't have that level of focus, then our hours are absorbed by petty tyrannies, just these little things that just completely hijack our greater purpose because we're responding to the urgent instead of the important. So the ability to discern and prioritize is so crucial for a leader. Jessica shared with us Proverbs 29, when there's no vision, the people perish. Exactly. Why wouldn't we pray for vision for our teams? Super aha moment. Cassie said, sometimes when I have vision and a goal, I get too overwhelmed by all the things I want to get done, but I can't figure out how to do them all. And so I think that the biggest thought I have in response to that is we cannot do it all. There is always, always, always something that will help us reach our highest possible contribution to the purpose or to the goal. And so we have to cultivate the ability to recognize and discern what that is. We cannot do it all. If we do it all, we will do it all poorly. We will go a little inch in a million directions instead of a mile in the direction we deeply desire to go in. So another plug for the book Essentialism, right? Okay, so yes, this is how we cultivate our role as a visionary. We look at who our companions are, who our inner circle is. We really spend that intentional time pouring into our own personal growth. We take ownership for seeking out vision, and we pray for it, and the Lord provides that. So vision can be really vulnerable. I mean it's like vulnerable to attack. So in the beginning, we've probably all seen like a young team member who has a ton of vision or feels a great purpose, but it's so vulnerable, isn't it? Like there are so many things that can attack that when somebody is young. Now, most of us are not super young in the business. So we are more prey, I think, to the vulnerability of after we've had some success, the attacks can be, oh, you had this great vision or this huge purpose, but what you've accomplished is not bad. And, you're pulling in a couple $1,000s a month, and that's really helping your family. So what he describes that as is the vision can leak. And I think that that's the vulnerability that most of us are most susceptible to. And it's certainly, I don't say any of this to promote a feeling of discontent. And I am very big on rest, so I don't ever want to preach that you should just be striving all the time. You're never good enough. That is not my message. But when we have a vision given to us by God for the lives we're going to change, for the purposes we're going to fulfill, I believe it is sinful to let that vision start leaking and to start to settle. So this is another discussion question I asked. John Maxwell says, true vision is weighty, and weighty means it carries opportunities if you pursue it, and it carries heavy consequences if you ignore it. And so one of the questions I asked each person to think about is, what are some of the potential consequences if you allow your vision to start leaking or if you stop pursuing it? And I feel like this is kind of a vulnerable question. So I would love if anyone wants to answer it, but I'm kind of wondering if anyone will. What are some of the potential consequences if you allow your vision to leak or if you stop pursuing it?
I'll share because we actually talked about this, Elizabeth, Michelle, and I. I've been reading Get Over Your Darn Self, and she talks about that in your goal. Like, think about not what your life could look like, but the consequences of you not achieving the goals that you have. And so like things that pop into my mind are constant fighting in the house over the stress of not having the finances that we need. Like that is a very real thing that happens. If you don't have a vision, and you don't know where you're going or why you're doing it, like, we're going to be in the same place that we are right now, and we're going to continue to have fights over money. I'm going to continue to miss my children's activities. Like, that's the reality. I will miss soccer games. I will miss basketball games. I will possibly miss graduations and things like that. Not high school, but like little things like that if I don't have my vision and go after it.
Can you think of any anything at stake for others as well?
If I don't have my vision, people won't be able to follow me because they won't know where I'm going.
Mm-hmm.
Which means that my people will be in the same situation that they're currently in. And they will have the stress in their life that they currently have. And that, like, that fuels me more than the personal. Like, people can't follow you if you don't know where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
I'll share on this one.
Oh, good.
I think, oh gosh, I'm like trying to unpack it as I'm spewing. I didn't see these questions ahead of time, sorry. So I think that the weight of like the what if would be too much for me to like deal with. Does that make sense? Like, I'm definitely super strong 6. I'm also really red and really yellow. And so there's the part of me that's like, I know I would be letting myself down if I quit too soon. And that feels like really egocentric to say, but I just know like I'm just driven in a lot of ways. And I'm like, I can't stop short. Like, I wouldn't run a half marathon and stop at mile 10 and say I ran a half marathon. You know what I mean? So I don't feel like I can do that in this either. But then the flip side, like you were saying, how does it affect other people, is like the weight of who was like going to be my next customer whose life would have been changed. You know, like you mentioned, Carissa, my life is totally different. Like, I don't know if I can talk about this without crying. It's been an emotional day. I could not have kept living like I was living 4 years ago or 3.5 years ago, however long ago it was. Like, that was no quality of life that it wasn't that I had anything like majorly wrong with me, but it was all the little things that I was like, this sucks. I don't want to be in this place anymore. And I was like depressed about it all, you know? And so like, how could I live with myself knowing that I might deprive someone else of that, you know, that freedom too? And like, that sounds really heavy and really weighty, but I feel like it's almost the same as like this. Plexus isn't the gospel. I know that, but I totally believe that like Jesus wants us to live fully now, like well too, you know, and physically, not just spiritually and emotionally, but physically too. And so like, how could I like not be obedient in sharing that? I don't know. Maybe I'm sounding really dramatic, but does that resonate with anyone else? Or like, I just feel like I can't quit. Like, there's been plenty of times that I wanted to, and every time, I was telling Ashley Gwines this the other day, we were Marco Poloing, she's my power partner, and I was like, every time I've tried to quit, like every time I've been at the point of like, I just want to like, done. I'm so frustrated. I'm beating my head against the wall, whatever. I always feel like the Lord's like, stop trying to get out of what I've put before you. Like, stop trying to get out of it. This is it. And we're going to get there. And I'm like mad, you know, but I want out of it. But like, you don't want out of it. And heart of hearts, you don't. Like, you want to help people. You want to like lead them into that freedom too. And like watch them get to enjoy, you know, and live their life fully too. Just like you have the opportunity to do. I feel like there's a whole sermon in there for sure. Like, we could have church tonight and it would be needed, but I'll stop. I'm sorry.
I think you articulated everything I keep thinking. Is I have seasons. This winter was a big one for me where I was just like, I am just so done with this. But like, I am so grateful. I can't even imagine. I don't even want to imagine what our life would be like without Plexus.
Sure.
Not to mention, you know, each of you. But I like daily, I'm like, what if I was like living on student loans right now and working outside the house? Like, I can't even think about it. So yeah, when I feel tempted toward laziness, you know, as just an example, I'm like, there are people out there who what's in store for them is to be able to do what I'm doing right now and be, have the time freedom with their family and have the income freedom, and to be blessing all these lives. And like that blessing is tied to me continuing to do what I'm called to do. So I don't need to add to what you said, because I feel like you articulated exactly how I feel about this. So I'll just finish this section before I tell you the homework I hope for everyone to do. But the one quote that I wrote down was, God's gift to me is my potential. My gift back to God is what I do with that potential. I thought that was really good. Okay. So the thing that several of the leaders of this call, basically, we've been chatting about this for a long time, and we decided to make it the homework for the vision chapter. We have seen a lot of other Jules, a lot of other teams, and people on our team be very positively impacted by weekly accountability calls. And this is something that actually we already have a super accessible template for, that Brooke Hemingway and Emily Gibson are doing with great success, and it's duplicating with great success. And it's a very quick 30 minutes a week for small groups. And I won't go into every detail about what it is, but we as leaders have decided for a long time that we want to implement this with our team on a larger scale. There's lots of people already doing it, but we want to implement it on a larger scale around the beginning of June, because so many people are in a place where they're ready to start running with their business again. Or even if they're not ready to run, if they want to walk or jog, that accountability is still so powerful. So we have been plotting for a long time to go ahead and get this started in June. And the challenge I have for you as your homework is, I would love for you to consider leading one of these groups. And so real quick, what I want to say about it is much more of a facilitator role than a leadership role, because you are following a very straightforward template, and everybody in your small group, I'm hoping it'll be 5 for each group, is taking a little bit of the time to share. And they're basically sharing their accountability to the group. Like, here's what I laid out for myself to do this week. Here's what I did this week. And Cassie, you jump in if I'm not saying any of that right. But actually, just today on the Climbing the Ladder page, I did just an introductory post about this, but I've just been getting the strong sense that so many people on our team need this. And this is absolutely beyond what I'm able to offer as one leader, this level of accountability. So this is something I've been like perceiving a need for and feeling like I'm not meeting this need. I'm totally not meeting this need. So we've been talking a lot about how to meet this need and how to really support people with the kind of accountability they need. So I want people to go comment on that thread if you are prepared and willing to lead one of those groups. And again, it's really more of a facilitator role, and they'll be 6 weeks. 6 weeks, 30 minutes once a week. And at the end of that time, there's a neat little way that it duplicates onward after your role as the leader is done. So we'll chat about that more as we continue to talk about it. And I really think it would be good to just have a training call for all the leaders before we launch it. So that's my homework. And I really thought it fit well with this conversation we had, which is your vision weighty, and what are the consequences if you allow it to leak or you stop pursuing it? So important that when we take on a role like this, and again, another part of this is I want each of you to have visible leadership platform. So many of you are leaders, but do people view you as leaders? Are people seeing your leadership? Maybe, maybe not. So this is a platform for you to lead. Now, if you take on a leadership role, you've got to show up. Like, here we are tonight, maybe a third of our Leaders on the Rise group is on this call with us. That doesn't fly if you have taken on the responsibility of leading an accountability group. You know, even if it doesn't mean you're talking the whole Zoom, there are consequences for giving up on the vision, right? So that's definitely the truth here, and that's why I thought it would be a really fitting homework assignment. So anything you want to add to that, Cassie?
No, just that, I mean, it's 30 minutes, no matter where you're at, everybody can hop on and do it. We've been doing it for 3 months now. We're about to graduate our people, but really, I mean, I did in Puerto Rico, like you have to, if you decide you're going to do this, be committed, because it's like a trainer. You're going to help that person succeed to their goals. So you can't, if you miss, they're going to fall off and they're not going to be the best that they can be. So remember that. So be committed when you decide to do it, because it's only 30 minutes. I mean, it's not really anything.
So true. Mm-hmm. And I just feel like if you're in this group, like this is a good next step for you, because again, you need opportunities to lead, visible opportunities to lead in order to step into that leadership place. So I think this is a very nice little stepping stone. So that is that, like on the Climbing the Ladder page is where I'm starting to gather names of people who are willing to lead those. And I really think it'll be good. We'll kick it off in June, and it may need to be after convention. I don't know if we'll be able to get too deep into it when people are preparing and leaving an at convention. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. Okay, wonderful. McKenna's recording this for us, so we will get the recording up for everybody who couldn't be on here tonight. And I don't see any more. Oh, how are the groups formed? Sidelines, downlines, or a combo? That's a great question. We all agree that like it's going to be most powerful for you as a leader if you have people in your downline wanting accountability. So obviously that's going to be the first goal. But if you're in this call and you don't have a lot of business builders yet and you're willing to lead a group, we still want you to lead a group. So in that case, we would put people in your group who are sidelines, just to give you opportunities to practice and develop your leadership. But for sure, the first place we would be trying to form your group would be from your downline if you have people who need accountability. And we'll probably put a post in the Paladins page saying who wants accountability. This is not just for sprinters. This is for people who need a paycheck, no matter what pace they're trying to grow in. So I think we'll open it up to the whole Paladins page, but specifically from among this group, we want good leaders. Okay, we'll talk more about that in a little bit, but everyone have a great rest of your night. Thanks for jumping on.
Bye, everybody.